Dan from Between the Bricks on this episode of Crossing the Streams. Welcome, Dan. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely honored to be here. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming along. There is so much to kind of get into and break down with you. But I think the simplest question to kind of warm us all up is who are you, Dan, and what's Between the Bricks about?
Between the Bricks is me. So I'm Dan. I'm a variety Lego streamer. I'm from New Zealand. If you don't get that from the world's most sexiest accent, just but no. So I've been making content for about 3 years. I started out streaming on Twitch March 3 years ago. I make a little bit of YouTube. I do a little bit of Instagram, and I am basically revolved my community around what actually started out as physical communities in and around New Zealand, which has then just spilled online as sort of needs must through circumstance, from one of a better description.
So you're a content creator that is, on Twitch, on YouTube, from a physical standpoint, started off as a community and then kind of went digital. You're also on Lego Masters New Zealand. There's a lot going on. So
there's a lot to unpack here.
There's a lot to unpack. And one of the things that you and I were talking about before we started the show was how a lot of us in the brick building community on Twitch actually consider you an OG. So how long have you been streaming on Twitch at this point?
So I started in March 3 years ago. So I've just ticked over 3 years, 2 months. And I ended up streaming on Twitch by accident. It was purely by accident. So to understand how I got to Twitch, I think I need to go a little bit further back in time to sort of like my origins as an AFOL, I suppose.
Yeah, let's go there.
So let's just go right back to when I was a kid. I had Lego as a kid, like most kids do.
Yeah.
I loved it. I built all sorts of things. I had a reasonable collection of, 80s Lego, because I'm a 70s kid. So through 80s is my heyday for Lego. And like everybody, I went through the dark age. And my dark age actually lasted quite a long time. It was actually into my mid-30s. And there was a time around 2014 where we were at home and we were watching the news, and there was an article on the news about Christchurch Brick Show. And at that stage, my then 9-year-old son was like, "Dad, I want to go to the Wellington Brick Show." So I was like, "That's cool." I'd been buying him Lego from the time he was a baby. In fact, before he was even born, I got my personal childhood collection back, and my wife and I built it in his in what was to be his nursery room before he was even born.
Wow.
So I'd been buying him Lego right through. And my youngest son, who was probably 5 or 6 at the time, as well, I'd been buying him Lego too. I'd always resisted buying it for myself because I did tabletop war games and I couldn't have 2 expensive hobbies at the same time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started looking around the internet, as you do, for the Wellington Brick Show. I was like, well, if there's one in Christchurch, there must be one in Wellington. This is New Zealand's capital city. Look around, can't find anything. No Wellington Brick Show. So using the good old interwebs and Facebook, I reached out to some people from Christchurch. And I think one of the first people I spoke to was a gentleman by the name of Jason DeVries. And he gave me this information about Christchurch Brick Show and about this thing called a lug and lug 4x2. And I'm like, what the heck's a lug,
Right.
Is it a bolt? Is it something that you put up on the wall and you hang things on a lug? I'm like, what is a lug? A lug stands for Lego User Group.
Yeah.
Later to find out that's just a fancy word for a club.
Yeah.
Got to have their own thing. So I said, well, where's the lug in Wellington? And so Jason informed me there is no lug in Wellington.
Wow.
Why not? He goes, I don't know. He didn't know. So again, continuing to use the old interwebs and Facebook particularly, I reached out to some people that I knew around Wellington that I'd seen in Facebook talking about Lego or a Lego picture here and there. Went and spoke to a young fella that worked at the local Toy World store, which is one of our major retailers for Lego here. And we got to talking, and we sort of found about 5 or 6 people that were all, adults, reasonably interested in Lego, and we all got together. And then from that, we ended up creating our own lug. So Wellington Lego User Group was born, or WellLug. I went down to the next year's show in Christchurch, and I took Cody with me, and I think that was 2015. And then we came back from Christchurch, which is always in July, and we ended up running our own show in the November of 2015.
Wow.
Here in the Wellington area. And we did it in a high school hall. We didn't know what to expect. We had 12 exhibitors that we started with, ended up being 35 exhibitors. And we ended up having 7,500 people visit the show over the course of 2 days.
That's incredible.
All for a $2 entry. And we were just like, oh my God. So, prior to the show, we had no idea what we were doing. I, myself, and one other guy put up $5,000 to fund it. We took our money back from it, and then we reinvested the rest of the money, some of the rest of the money to starting the next show. And then we made a $5,000 donation to a local charity. And then we continued that cycle for a few years. So for 5 years, I spent as the president of Wellington Lego User Group.
Wow.
I applied and got it recognized by Lego in 2017, I think, or 2016. Yeah, I think it might have been 2016. So I was the president and the Lego and the LAN ambassador for 5 years. And fast forward to 2018, end of 2018. I've had a 20-year career in the military and emergency services, frontline healthcare, and I had a complete, total and utter mental breakdown at the end of 2018. It was triggered by a very innocuous thing that happened at home. I had no idea what was happening. I spent the next couple of weeks just spiraling out of control. Everything just fell over for me in that instant, and over the course of 4 months, I didn't leave the house. Wow. I stopped working. I ceased communication with pretty much everybody. I didn't know what to do. And a friend of mine reached out and said, you need to go to Veterans Affairs and talk to them about support. And, I think you've got post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. So I did. I went to VA, and sure enough, I ended up getting diagnosed in early 2019. And that's kind of where streaming comes into play about this point in time, because once I started seeing a psychotherapist and started, dealing with my issues, I realized that I had shut myself away, but I didn't have the confidence to go out anywhere. I'd stepped down as the president of the lug. The lug was just doing its own thing, but I still wanted to be involved. I still wanted to be part of it. And I still wanted to talk to my Lego friends, because between 2015 and 2019, I'd probably attended 20 shows around New Zealand, growing the Lego community. Not only did I start WellLug, I helped the Lug in Dunedin start. We started simultaneously with the one in Southland. I've helped Bay of Plenty get going. I've helped Hamilton, and I've helped a group in Taranaki all get going. And I've also provided a lot of transparency through the Wellington Lego User Group that have helped improvements in 2 of the existing lugs prior to that as well. So I had this reputation as like one of the main driving forces behind the growth of the AFOL community in New Zealand, because I was the only one that really traveled the country doing it. And then, so the streaming thing, I started streaming on Facebook, and I started Between the Bricks. So prior to Between the Bricks, here's a little inside information here that not that many people know unless you've known me for a long, long time. But I had a YouTube channel called Bricks and Pieces.
Really?
And let's just say that it involved Lego, a high-powered rifle, and lots of cameras.
Wow.
You can hate on me now. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people that's going to be like, unsub. Now, there's a reason for this. Now, the reason for this was, it was fun, and it was my Lego that I'd bought and paid for.
Yeah.
And I never ever once showed the firearm. I never ever once sensationalized the shooting or the firing or the anything of that. It was nothing to do with that. It was all about what happened to the Lego once it got hit by the bullet. And I tell you, Lego is very, very robust. Like, don't get me wrong, it explodes, but you do not damage that many pieces. I think the best one was the VW Beetle, and the thing just exploded. And there was about 20 damaged pieces.
Oh my
and
gosh.
all of them were easily replaceable, easy to put it back together again. I spent lots and lots and lots of time on my hands and knees, crawling around in the grass, picking up every last little piece.
Yeah.
And I took my boys with me. I ended up having to close that channel down once I became a recognized Lego Fan Media, because I didn't want there to be a crossover between Bricks and Pieces and my RLFM stuff, where people thought that I was taking Lego from the Lego group, as a reviewer and shooting it. So I decided I'd just stop it. And at that point in time, there was a group of people that didn't particularly like the fact that I was shooting Lego, even though it was Lego that I bought and paid for with my own money.
Right.
So then I started working with a company called Flexo, and Flexo create this Lego-like product with flexible tendons in between the pieces. So if you ever have a look at it online, it's basically, if you take a Lego 2x2 square plate and put 4 notches in it, and then you can add these little rubber tendons, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and it flexes, obviously. So it's called Flexo. So I ended up doing some reviews and stuff for them, and that's where Between the Bricks was born, because the rubber tendon was in between the bricks.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing stuff for them whilst making content on Lego and streaming and just growing very slowly.
Yeah. And
then I applied to become an RLFM, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, not going to lie, because my community was pretty small at the time. I'm talking less than 500 followers on Twitch. I had, about 100 subs on YouTube. I was like a nobody. I wasn't even the flea on the dog. I was the parasite on the flea on the dog, right? So I really, really was a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I applied to be an RLFM.
Yeah.
But I knew what Lego were looking for, because I had been an ambassador within the program for 5 years with the lug. I knew what they were looking for when it came to content. I knew what they were looking for when it came to representation. And this is something that a lot of people really find difficult to get their head around these days, even now, 3-4 years later, that it's not all about being the biggest community. It's about, quality over quantity.
Right.
And I stand by that, because I'm living proof of that I was the smallest community, I think, ever to probably be put into the LAN. Because normally you're looking at, 50,000 subs or, thousands of subscribers, thousands of hits on a blog and all of these other things. But I was different. Yeah. I was something new. I was somebody that engaged with the community on a boots on the ground level by traveling around and doing Lego shows. And then I was also doing the streaming thing, which nobody did. No one in the LAN did live streams. Just wasn't a thing. And if they did, it was exceptionally rare. So Between the Bricks was born. All of this content and stuff was happening. I did this really with the whole sole focus of trying to keep in touch with my friends and Lego friends and family and stuff. I would just start streaming from my Lego room at home, which was slightly different to what it is now, but the same space nonetheless. I would sit there and build Lego sets, because I didn't have the mental aptitude at the time to build mocks. I really struggled with that. Part of the PTSD, I think, was just my creative side gone, just totally gone. My ability to be able to sit and try and work through the creative process of building anything gone. So I fell back on instructions and I started building more and more sets. And I was comfortable doing that while people were just sitting there chatting. And this was on Facebook. And I was like, cool, this works. And Dirk Dirk Plug came along and he's like, hey, really like your streams, and, have you ever thought about streaming over on Twitch? There's this little community over there. I'm like, what the hell's Twitch? Never heard of it. I do game a little bit, but not to the level of like what you'd expect from a gamer on Twitch, right? So I'd never heard of it, didn't know what it was. Had a look at it, saw Brick and Nick streaming and thought, dude, that guy's awesome. I really like what he's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly what I wanted to do. Sit there, build Lego, and talk while people chat at you.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd give that a go. So at that point, I spent, I don't know, maybe a month or so, 6 weeks or so, just trying to get some stuff together, like a decent camera. Because when I first started, I was literally on my laptop, with just the laptop camera and the laptop microphone as well. So, it was adequate. It did its job. But if I wanted to be in front of people more often, I was thinking, you want to do the best you can for your viewers. So I slowly started trying to improve things as I could. So, I got a better microphone was the first thing that I got. I think microphone's important. And then I got a camera, and then, eventually it just evolved. And so I put my little room together, and I hit that go live button on Twitch one day. And I tell you what, it was one of the most scariest things I've ever done in my life, because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues doing it on Facebook, because when I did it on Facebook, I just did it under my own profile, just go live, it's easy.
Yeah.
But I started this thing on Twitch called Between the Bricks, and nobody knew who Between the Bricks was and all of these things. And the first time I streamed, I think I had like 10, 12 people, the people that had come across from Facebook with me.
Yeah.
And, it took me the minimum time to get to affiliate, because I bought a few people from me with Facebook, from Facebook, and it was great. It was just great. It was like nothing really changed between Facebook and Twitch. I had the same 12, 15, 20 people, got my 50 followers real quick, and then just carried on, and that's where it all started. And It's just growing from there. And for the past 3 years, I've essentially just tried to improve as best I can. There's been times where I've gotten out of bed and I've come down to stream, and it's been great. And there's times where I've gotten out of bed and I come down to stream and I just can't face it, and I don't do it. And there's been times where it's been exceptionally difficult, and things and circumstances have changed, and I've wanted to quit. There's been a time where I did quit, and then I come back, and it's been one hell of a roller coaster. I'm not going to lie, but the community here on Twitch from day one has been second to none. It's, in my opinion, it's just as good as a real life community. I think the people on Twitch, it doesn't matter what country you're in, doesn't matter what time you stream or wherever you are, the other streamers here treat the vast majority of other streamers with respect. And it's been like that since the day I started. And I remember vividly when I first started streaming, and Brick and Nick would raid into me or give me a shout out in his stream, and Johnny Set to Build would do the same, Parky would do the same. And, as streamers came into the community, everybody was in that whole, welcome mindset of, hey, there's someone new. Let's welcome them in. Let's be supportive. Let's give them shout outs. Let's go and watch their streams. Let's do what we can to grow a community and grow it together. And it's always been like that. And I've never, ever been part of many other communities that are like that. There's so many communities that are like, oh, okay, so you're just coming to do this. Well, I'm already doing it. So, it wasn't like that here.
Yeah.
Those guys were amazing. And they were role models. They really were role models. I've got a lot of time for Nick. I'd give him the shirt off my back. He'd be able to make a tent with it and live in it. But, he's only a little fella. But, he's a really cool guy, and he's been grinding and driving this community for a long time.
Yeah.
And I felt like I should have done the same, or should do the same, I should say. And so I did, because that's how it was for me. So that's how I feel it should be for everybody.
Yeah. That is an incredible story. Just from, starting a lug, kind of getting into just Lego, and then putting together the show, and then streaming on Facebook, then streaming on Twitch. It is a ride, like you said. It goes to so many different places. There were probably so many different experiences, highs and lows. Being on Twitch for 3 years, even just that little window of time compared to the amount of time you spent as a Lego, as an AFOL and as someone who is into Lego. Can you describe your feeling from when you started on Twitch as a Lego creator to now, and seeing it change? Because we were jokingly saying, we consider you an OG, even though you consider Brick and Nick and Set to Build some of the first. But you've been here for 3 years, and so now, from your time to now, what do you think of it? What do you think of this Twitch community now that it's probably grown and changed over the years?
Oh, it's definitely grown and changed over the years, but that's only been for the better. So, when we first started, you'd be lucky, if you got a dozen viewers at any one time, you'd made it. You're like, that was as good as Ninja getting 50,000 views in the Lego world. If you were a Lego streamer and you were getting a dozen viewers, man, you were on fire.
Right.
But truthfully, it was like we didn't get huge numbers of people watching streams back in the day, but what we did get was quality viewers that were watching and engaging, and we were engaging back, and everybody in the community was the same. Now, everyone in the community is still doing that now. It's just that watch numbers, those numbers that are in your chat, are 3, 4, 5 times more than what they were 3 years ago. But then there's also 3, 4, 5 times more people streaming now than there was 3 years ago. And just Lego content, or let's say majority Lego content. You get the odd streamer that plays the odd game or does the odd other thing now and then, but are typically known as Lego builders or brick building streamers or whatever. So yeah, the change has been massive, and obviously I think COVID really played a huge part in that. There was that 1 year pre-COVID where it was a grind, and we were trying to get people to come to Twitch, and we were trying to grow this community and try to encourage people over here. And then COVID comes in and says to everybody, well, you're going to stay at home, so find some form of entertainment to keep you entertained. And I think at that point, people decided they'd give streaming a go, because it really exploded at that point in time. So for me, being exceptionally fortunate to be RLFM gave me more confidence to sort of, help and try and be a community member that people look to, or someone, gave me the ability to be able to support other streamers. So we used to do, or still do try and do, a lot of collaborative streaming and things. And that was always my focus. My focus was always about community and collaboration. And it always has, it always will be. And, I have to say that I wouldn't have been able to do that without being an RLFM, because that gives me the ability to share the support that I get with other people, so that they can, we can do a collaborative build together. Between the brick supplies them with the set that they need, and we get on and stream and make content and have some fun. So yeah, it's definitely changed a lot, a heck of a lot, but certainly for the better. And I think, to be fair, there's some really entertaining streamers out there now that are really fun to watch, and the engagement levels are through the roof. And we needed that. I'm not going to lie, we needed that, because I'm not that kind of streamer. I'm not about to get into leggings and shake my ass. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to see that. I don't have money to be paying for people's trauma counseling. But to have people that are willing to go that extra mile for the entertainment of others, I think is wonderful. And whilst I take my hat off to those streamers, but I'm not going to be joining those ranks. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to I'm going to sit here comfortably and just talk, and yeah, there will be no booty shaking.
So no leggings. No leggings.
No legging. Oh, I don't think they make leggings big enough for my butt, to be fair. I'm not going to lie.
You should put that. You should put that in your channel rules. It has all the normal stuff, and then at the end, it's like, no, there will be no leggings in this stream.
Yeah. And if you're asking for leggings in my stream, you've got issues. You do need to see somebody.
Well, now we know. Now we like definitively. We could put that question to rest in case anyone.
You can. Yeah.
In case anyone wanted to see it. Man, I think that you made an incredible point about when we started getting those streamers who are really entertaining or incredibly engaging. Lego is just such an incredible product, right? Like, it's a great hobby to get into. There's so many different ways you can get into it or do things with, and the same goes for actually creating the content. And I didn't really think about it until you made that point that, there's this influx of creators who came probably right around the early pandemic days. I was one that kind of came mid second year of the pandemic, but I never thought about it that way because, you start off with this smaller group who, everyone's entertaining. Everyone's got their strengths. There's incredible reasons to watch a lot of the creators in the brick building community. But then you start kind of getting those over the top engaging streams, where leggings might be a thing, or these incredible redeems of people, walking on bricks or doing crazy engaging things. I really, think that opened up the community, and I completely agree with you in that sense. Where do you see, as the community continues to mature and continues to grow, do you see any other things, going on, or trends going on within the space that will further push, I guess, the growth?
That's a really good question. I'm not entirely sure what the trends need to be to push growth, but I think one thing that we need to be careful about as a community is not overextending the expectations from within the community. So what I mean by that, and I mean this with all due respect to everybody who streams within this community, is that it's easy to sit on the fringe and say, oh, these guys are doing it good, and people are throwing bits and subs and all of this stuff at them. I can do that. And then you jump on and it doesn't happen. Right. And then you get bitter, and then, you depart. So you even leave as a viewer and stuff like that. And I've seen that. I've had that even personally on my own streams, where I've had viewers that have turned into streamers that have not made it for whatever reason, and then gone completely off the platform. Right. And I think as new streamers come on board, you've got to realize that the streamers that are here have worked hard to get to where they've gotten to. Yeah. There's probably been a significant investment behind their stream, like, camera gears, lights, microphones, desks, setups, you name it. People have invested a significant amount of money to make the highest production value possible. And, support doesn't come overnight. It's just something that has to be, earned and is given in whatever circumstances. That shouldn't be the expectation of all streamers. So, it's all well and good. We are here to support our, new streamers and bring people on and encourage them into the community, but you shouldn't be expecting to make a job out of it on day one, right. Unless you are that golden sort of 1 in 100 or a 1 in 1,000 people that just brings the charisma. And we've seen some people that have gained some real success really quickly, but that's not everybody. So don't get dejected by that. Don't feel like you're any less of value than anybody else. Everybody here, everybody who hits that go live button, anybody who sits in front of any camera or any microphone on any given day and streams is putting their heart on their sleeve and giving themselves to you to watch.
Yeah.
And we should be supporting and celebrating that. And in doing so, you know, we can care and we can provide this wraparound support, but we need to manage the expectations a little bit better. And I think that in itself, going forward, would probably be a better way to help the community grow in a more healthier way, rather than a, oh, that looks piss easy, I'm going to go and do that and I'm going to get $1,000 of subs in 2 days. You know what I mean? Because that's sometimes the expectation. So we're big enough now as a community. It's not just 6 people. It's 60 or 80 or 100. I don't even know how many streamers there are these days, but there's literally someone streaming Lego almost 24/7.
Yeah.
And as a community, we need to make sure that we are realistic with expectations going forward. It's the same conversation that you'd have with your kids. Well, I don't know, same conversation I have with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, your first job, you are not going to earn what I'm earning now, or what my wife's earning, or whatever, who have been working for 30 years and have taken the pay grades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's sort of, I think that's how we need to focus on growing the community, is growing it in a more healthier way.
Right.
It doesn't rely on, you know, expectations of support.
Yeah, it's definitely incredible to, you know, because, and I say this often, when you see a good creator, they make it look really easy. They often make it seem effortless, often, whether they're either just entertaining or the production and quality value of the stream is incredible, or they have literally over 100 different commands, right? And they have this incredible community backing them up, and you know, follows, subs roll in, gift subs, etc., all the bits. But for all those new people, you know, that expectation is there usually of, I'm going to start streaming. I'm going to, you know, have this major following, is going to be incredible. And then they start doing it, and a couple weeks in, they realize potentially that, and more often than not, that they're not there. And that just takes time, effort, continued iteration and effort on the quality of the stream and an engagement with those watching.
Yep. It's the same with almost anything in life. You've got to work at it and practice at it to get good at it. It's as simple as that. You know, it's like even building Lego, you know, I take it for granted that, you know, when I'm building Lego, I can recognize almost any Lego piece in any orientation lying on the table. And when I take the Lego sets to the school for the kids to build that I work with, they don't recognize a piece if it's upside down. So in their mind, it's not there. So it's missing. And that's the first thing they come to. No, it's not. It's missing. I'm like, actually, I can see it from here. And they'll look again. And you've got to remember, you've got to think back to what it was like when you first started.
Yeah.
And how much you've grown as a person throughout the journey. And that's what I liken it to with newer streamers. It's like, you know, I remember when I go back and I look at my very first streams, my set was very plain. My camera was awful. You know, my sound was like I was in an echo chamber. And just slowly over time, I've helped things to improve, because that's what I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't feel the pressure to have to do that either if you don't want to.
Definitely.
You know, again, manage those expectations.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do, and do it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, simple as that. If you're not here doing this for yourself first, then you do end up falling into a trap. And I fell into that trap probably about the 2-year mark. I sort of was doing streaming more for the people than I was for myself, and I burnt myself out. And, you know, I was streaming like 4 or 5 times a week, and I was doing YouTube videos and stuff. And I just got to a point where it just seemed like doing the same drone every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really appreciated the support that I got. Don't get me wrong. And I can never really ever put it into words just how appreciative I am of the support. but I wasn't giving enough because I was overdoing it. So I ended up having to pull back, and I ended up pulling back to 3 times a week. And currently I'm only 2 times a week, but I feel like those 2 times a week when I do stream, I'm giving it everything that I can.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful, it will soon take over, and then it starts to feel like a job. And if you want it to be a job, that's fine. Treat it like a job. Treat it like a 9 to 5. But if you want it to be a hobby and a fun hobby, don't let it get out of hand.
Yeah. That's very good call out there, because a lot of people get into content creation, whether it be streaming or even just making videos as VODs, and they start to get lost in that machine or in the metrics of it, right? Oh, I got to gain more followers or subscribers. I need to post another video, or I need to be live 4 times this week, whatever it looks like. How do you, when you look at burnout, what kind of advice would you give someone who's getting into this sort of thing? And what would you tell them about recognizing burnout and how to address it?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think if you feel like, I think the first symptom of burnout is that you are not enjoying what you're doing. You feel like it's a grind. It's like anything. It's like work, or it's like chores around the house, or whatever. When you get to a point where you are literally loathing what you are doing and you don't want to be doing it, that's you're probably already at that point of burnout. And with streaming, it gets to the point where, you could be hovering over that go live button and you're like, oh, I really can't be bothered with this today, or, oh God, I hope this person doesn't come in today, or, oh God, I hope nobody starts talking about this, or oh, I hope nobody says that I'm tired or that I look sick, or you feel that these triggers coming along. So then you start thinking, well, if I'm at this point now before I've even hit the go live button, what's it going to be like if I hit the go live button? And then for me personally, that's what happened, is I would hit the go live button and then people would bring up topics in chat and I didn't want to talk about it, and it became obvious. And I looked like I didn't want to be here. And that's what happened. It got to a point where I was just like, I've got enough of my own crap to deal with. And, it just took more of a toll. And in that sense, if you're not healthy enough to look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. And I've always been very, very open about my mental health. And I will talk to anybody that'll listen about mental health. And I wasn't looking after myself. So if I wasn't looking after myself, how could I be of use to anybody else to try and, talk to anybody else about mental health problems? So recognizing that point where you think you are approaching burnout, and then taking a real deep dive into yourself and asking the hard questions. What am I getting out of this? Why am I doing this? My wife poses that question to me often when I get down, and when I get to a point where I'm quite, when I feel a little bit depressed about streaming. And sometimes I do, it's sort of like, doesn't matter what I do, doesn't really feel like there's any good energies in the stream. And a lot of that's got to do with my own issues with self-confidence and imposter syndrome. But you do get to that point. So take a deep dive and ask those questions, why am I doing this? And I always come back to that because I want to connect with people. And when I keep remembering that that's why I want to stream, it doesn't matter whether I have one person that I'm talking to in chat or whether I've got 10 or 100 people in chat. Let's face it, I never have 100 people in chat. So 1 or 10. But, it doesn't matter. If you're chatting with that one person and you're having a meaningful conversation, then it's worthwhile. And that's what streaming's about for me. And then making it manageable. So if you do get to that point with burnout, take a break, readjust, make it manageable, and do it because you enjoy it, or do it for the reasons that you want to do it for. So for me, I peeled back from 5 days a week or 6 days a week down to 3 days a week. And I also limit the time that I stream. So I think when I first started, I was streaming like 5-6 hours was probably about average. Now I get to about the 3-hour mark in a stream and I've had enough. So if I stream for
Yeah.
more than 3 hours, I'm either having a really good time,
Yeah.
or it's because I have set that target, or that I'm doing that for that particular stream. But most of my normal streams probably would be between 2 to 4 hours, and then that's enough.
Yeah.
So not over streaming. And don't get me wrong, that's for me personally.
Yeah.
If your happy place is to stream for 5 or 6 hours or 7 or 8 hours, then that's fine. These are just the things you need to ask yourself.
Yeah.
So, making sure that you are doing it for the reasons you want to do it, for the length of time that you want to do it, and the amount of times that you want to do it. And I think at that point, you'll probably avoid some burnout. But burnout, unfortunately, is pretty inevitable.
Yeah.
Those
are all really good observations and bits of advice. I think that it happens a lot to streamers. Whether they, have even that intention of going full time, or just intention of really making something out of it, or even if they just enjoy it, they end up starting to put more effort into those streams, which turns into more time, which then turns into potential burnout. So I really appreciate your advice for that. You talk about how mental health is really important to you. I've noticed, it comes up in your streams, and your community talks about just mental health in general. Given your history, being freely open about your own mental health, what kind of thoughts do you have for streamers who don't really consider it a main topic for them, or something that they take into consideration? How would you approach, to a new streamer, how important is your mental health? This kind of goes hand in hand with your burnout talk, but is this something you talk about with other content creators as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. On a personal level, there's a lot of people that have reached out to talk about things on a personal level, and that's perfectly fine. Not everybody is confident or comfortable talking about mental health publicly. And it's one thing that I decided relatively early on that I would talk about publicly, because the primary reason is that if I don't talk about my mental health publicly, I don't own it. So I talk about it publicly to be able to make myself face up to the fact that that's what's going on. Yeah. Otherwise, I just ignore it, avoid it, and pretend it doesn't happen.
Right.
And that doesn't lead to anything healthy at all. And the other reason why I talk about my mental health openly and publicly is because the support that I've had has come from lots of different places. And I feel like I owe it to those people that have supported me throughout that time to be an advocate for mental health, I suppose. And I seriously just really don't care what people think. So as far as like streaming and mental health goes, if it's something that you're comfortable talking about on your stream as a content creator, then I would encourage it fully, because the more mental health awareness out there, the more we break the stigma around mental health. And I feel like the stigma around mental health has probably been, broken down a lot more in the last 5 years than it has in the previous 40 years. And that's just because there's a whole new generation of people now that have grown up with mental health being more normalized than it was in my generation. For example, when I first joined the Army, I joined the Army in the 90s as a 17-and-a-half-year-old. And if you couldn't handle what was going on, you basically just got told to harden up, suck it up, sunshine, take a concrete pill, all of those sorts of things.
Right.
I deployed overseas to a tsunami disaster as part of a disaster relief team. And, I saw some stuff over there that I wouldn't recount for anybody. And it was horrific. And we got back to New Zealand, and it was, our whole deployment sat in a room, and everyone was like, the psychologist walked in and goes, has anybody got any problems? Like, who the hell in a room full of, medics and doctors and nurses is going to put their hands up and say, yeah, actually, I saw some pretty horrific stuff down there. And
Right.
I wouldn't mind talking about it. Well, nobody, right? And I
Yeah.
didn't. And I was one of the only people that actually got to go to the disaster zone out of our deployment. The rest of the deployment stayed at the hospital. And that was because I was a medic in an infantry battalion that got sent over with a field hospital. So they sent me out to do all the grunt work while the field hospital staff all did the field hospital thing. And then I went to the ambulance service after that, and it was just the same. It was just the same. I did my ambulance training with 50, 60-year-old men that were just like, yep, doesn't matter what you see out there. You just got to put it away and forget about it, and you'll be fine. Just harden up. And you see some of the most horrific things that you'll ever see as a paramedic. And suck it up, sunshine. Well, eventually it got to me, right? And that's what ended up causing my PTSD breakdown. So this generation of people, and my kids, for example, that are all late teenagers now, have grown up with me with mental health and are far more likely to do something about their own mental health and be open and honest about their own mental health than I ever was at their age.
Yeah.
So, I'm all for it and I embrace it. If you want to make safe space on your stream, if you want to discuss mental health on your stream, then go for it. If you ever come into my stream, it is a safe space and I am open about talking about mental health. On the flip side, a lot of content creators don't want to talk about mental health in their streams because, for some people it can be, a bit of a downer. It is a bit depressing to talk about people's mental health. And I fully respect that. Yeah. I fully, totally, and utterly respect that. If you want to maintain high vibes 100% of the time and you're not really that keen on talking about mental health stuff, then don't. That's fine. And you need to respect those streamer spaces as well, because that is their space. And that might be their way of coping with whatever it is that they're going through. They might not have the mental aptitude to be able to deal with that stuff on stream because it is difficult. Yeah. I have sometimes been pulled into conversations that have taken a real nosedive real fast. Because the conversation has been twisted and you're just like, whoa, that escalated quickly and I'm not qualified to talk about it. It's happened.
Right. How did we get here?
It just out of the blue. And, you're quite happily having this mental health conversation and then it turns into something really dark and you're like,
definitely. Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist, okay? I can only share my story, my journey, and talk to people based on shared experience. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I cannot fix everyone else's problems either. But I will listen and I will care. And so will my community. And if other communities want to do the same, go for it. But again, I'll take it back to what I said earlier about you've got to do what works for you as a content creator.
Right.
The minute you deviate from being yourself as a creator, you're then starting to put on a facade. You're going to build walls. People are going to see through you. And I think the best thing in a creator is to just be you and be honest. Stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay true to yourself. The minute you're not true to yourself, you'll get seen as a fake. Unless you want to be a fake. If there are, don't get... Hang on, I have to put a caveat around this because I don't want people to get offended by what I'm saying. There are people that do stream under a persona, and that's fine.
Right.
That's perfectly fine. If that's what's working for you or for those people as creators is their persona, they're streaming their persona. Dr. Disrespect, perfect example. He streams under a persona. That's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying if you're trying to be a genuine you, then you need to be a genuine you. Don't be a fake you. No one likes a fake you.
Yeah. That's great advice. And after having talked to so many creators, especially just on this show, one recurring theme is staying honest or being sincere and really, unapologetically being yourself. And so I'm glad to have another person continue to preach that because honestly, especially even in the context of mental health, it becomes hard to maintain dishonest or insincere displays of who, whoever you want to be or claim to be while you're streaming or making videos here on Twitch. So I completely agree. With all this time you spent on Twitch, do you have any particularly memorable or special moments from the last 3 years that you've experienced since you've started?
I think one of the most memorable things that it's ever happened on Twitch, for me personally, was when I was streaming with my son, Alex. And there is a clip for this, but his stomach rumbled, his tummy rumbled, And I said to him, "Are you hungry?" And he looked at me, straight face, deadpan, and said, "It's just my stomach stones." And I said, "What?" and he goes, when the stomach stones, that they're in your stomach and they grind all the food up, and when there's no food in there, they rub against each other. And I thought he was joking. I genuinely thought that he was taking the piss. And he wasn't. He was straight. He was just straight. So we had this conversation about stomach stones, and he genuinely thought that he had stones in his stomach that ground up all the food, because a teacher had told him that when he was at primary school. So spoiler alert, sorry people, but given my paramedical history and having to learn anatomy and physiology in depth, unless you've swallowed some stones, you don't have them in your stomach. Now, gallstones, that's a different thing altogether. But yeah, that was probably a highlight for me. Definitely a couple of the fundraising streams that I've been part of. So Hobbit Day streams have always been fantastic.
Yeah.
And last year, participating in the whole crew fundraising stream for the American Cancer Society with that Sapience actually organized in response to a fellow gamer friend that had passed away due to cancer, and raising something like $13,000 in the month that we did it or something. It was just amazing. So I guess, yeah, it all ends up coming back to the community things.
Yeah.
The highlights are always the things where the community is involved in, and that's what just makes it fun. So, yeah, there's been a few nice highlights over the last 3 years for sure.
A lot of great memories, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just a little bit, I guess, annoyed that Twitch don't keep, streams for that long. And I never bother downloading VODs and keeping them or anything like that. But
yeah,
if you see these cool moments in people's streams, make sure you clip them, because clips stay there forever, I think.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Take those clips, people, please. Help us figure out.
I just have to acknowledge that comment there that Goddess has put into the chat about. So there's this time on stream where I had my gallstone. So I don't know if I just shuffle over here.
Yeah,
my gallstone is in my infinity gauntlet. So it's right here. So this gallstone is it's about the size. It's pretty big. Okay, it's like the size of my thumb.
Oh my god!
And I jokingly said on stream one day that if somebody paid for an infinity gauntlet, I would modify it and put my gallstone in it, and take it and take it to a Lego show and put it on display.
Oh my god!
So I did.
I can't believe that.
The day that I was building the gauntlet on stream,
yeah,
I had a chocolate biscuit next to me, which is shaped like a square, called Tim Tams, famous New Zealand biscuit.
Yes.
And I had jokingly previously, with my gallstone.
Oh no.
That's just me. God. But I put it down, and we were still talking about it. And I picked up the biscuit and I bit the biscuit, and everybody thought that I just stuck the gallstone in my mouth. So yeah, that was a funny moment.
Oh my gosh! I've heard people reference this story on and off, but I didn't know the whole thing. Well, and oh my
that's gosh. What it is. So my gallstone lives here in the Infinity Gauntlet.
Wow, I can't believe that.
Neither could I when it came out either. It was a big stone.
Uh,
I had that stone. That was all through 20. That must have been all through 2020. I had that gallstone, I think.
oh man,
I ended up in hospital like 14, 15 times
really?
over the course of a year. Sometimes I was in there for 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it was just a few hours while I got dosed up with all of the painkillers that you need to give a horse
Yeah.
or an elephant. And eventually they took it out. And I still remember the surgeon. The surgeon was, pretty much like, it's not that big of a deal, just again, he was like, suck it up, mate. And then they took the gallstone out. And so this was an operation that was supposed to take 45 minutes. Their record long operation was 5.5 hours for a difficult one. Mine was 5. So can't have been that great. And so the surgeon came in the following morning for that post-op visit, very, very sheepishly was like, how did you cope with that thing in your stomach? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I had to live with it because, New Zealand's medical system, be it all free, takes a long time to deal with stuff, especially that's not urgent. But yeah, the gallstone had actually eroded away at the wall of my stomach and the bile duct because it was rubbing up against it for so long. So yeah, it was a mission, all right. But once it was out, it was great. It was great once it was out, and I got a cool little prize for it.
And now you have an infinity.
Now I've got
gauntlet.
an infinity gauntlet. Yeah, couldn't ask for anything better.
Oh my gosh!
When I took it to the Lego show, these kids kept coming up and touching it. That was funny as heck. And then I tell them what it was. Oh, it was great. It was brilliant.
That is one of the incredible, one of the most incredible stories I've heard regarding an infinity gauntlet and a gallstone, because I can't believe that. Actually, I had gallstones, and the pain is not good.
No,
it is.
No, it is
it
not.
Is, it is.
It is not
horrible. So
it is horrible.
The last time I had one of those, I was in the fetal position on the floor of my room, in chills and in absolute pain, and then I went to the hospital. But
yeah, it's a pain you can only describe if you've had it, and it is terrible.
It is absolutely,
and you can't make it go away either. That's the thing.
It is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, they gave me morphine tablets to take at home prior to going to the hospital, and I'd take them, and that was almost just as awful. But they didn't touch the sides. It was all
Wow. What a story, man. I did not expect to get here, but here we are. This is where we're at now. With your long...
How do we come back from this?
With your long and storied time here on Twitch, man, with all these incredible memories, it seems like you also have some other stories that span beyond Twitch, and that you're on Lego Masters New Zealand. Which I think is one of the probably the more recent topics of conversation for you. But for those that don't know, Dan here is on the show, and you and I talked briefly about what that you can talk about it, but I would love to hear, of course, within what you're able to share about your time on Lego Masters. Yeah.
So. Yeah, Lego Masters was, as we know from Australia, the US, and 10 other countries around the world that do it, is a pretty, I like to say it's a pretty amazing show that really showcases some pretty amazing building and some pretty amazing circumstances. And I've been a fan of the Aussie show since day one. I had watched the first series of the US show, but not second or third, because the third's about to come out. So I don't think the whole series of 2 showed in New Zealand, unfortunately. But yeah, it got advertised as coming to New Zealand. I was like, oh yeah, it looks pretty cool. The first thing I did as a community member was sort of try to go to the source and get as much information as possible, because New Zealand has this bad reputation for doing things that have been done overseas, but doing it poorly, as like the poor second cousin. Now, you got to understand, we're a country of 5.5 million people. It's smaller than most cities in the United States. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So money's always tight and budgets are always tight, and it shows sometimes with New Zealand production. And I was concerned that we were going to look stupid. And the New Zealand Lego community is not stupid, and we are very astute, and there are some very talented builders in this country. So I wanted to make sure that it was going to be done properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing that I tried to do. And once I found out that it was going to be done as Lego Masters, under the same vein as Australia, with the same branding and basically the same concept, I thought, oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Didn't actually think about getting involved. And then they started asking for people to apply. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind applying. I think I wouldn't mind. Who would I apply with? And then these questions come through your mind. And
right.
I asked a couple of guys, and spoke to a couple of people around locally, and then a couple of people around Christchurch and things. And then a mate of mine, Jono, sent me a message and was like, Lego Masters is coming. You got to do it with me. And I was like, if we were in the final build and the opposition's build fell off the table, what would you do? Oh, no, sorry, I said it collapsed. If I said then the other team's building collapsed, what would you do? And he said, I'd push ours off the table. I was like, sweet, we can do it together. Because I couldn't win on a technicality.
Yeah.
So Jono himself has some mental health history as well. He's got ADHD, and he had actually just recovering from cancer, from leukemia. So we went through the process. We applied together. He has quite similar banter to me. He's just as stubborn as I am. And so we were a great mix, right? We're like two magnets that are pushing against each other because, you got them around the wrong way. That was us. So we thought, this is going to be great. This is going to be fun. And so we applied, never really thought that we'd get through. I thought that there would have been hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying for Lego Masters, and they'll be looking for something that I don't have to offer, or whatever it was. It's just one of those things. You never really think it's going to be you.
Right.
Anyway, we got through the first round, and then the second round, and then the third round. And we're like, man, this could be a reality. And then the day came, and we got the phone call. It's like, yeah, we'd like to offer you guys a spot on Lego Masters Season 1. Like, oh, wow. So that was a mind-blowing day. That really was a mind-blowing day. And that was December last year. And we weren't going to film until the 18th of January. So we had all of Christmas and the first part of January just freaking out. And yeah, I'm one of those people that can't practice for things. Especially for Lego, I don't do practice. My creative flow comes from being in the moment. So, and thankfully, Jono's the same.
Yeah.
So we took a bunch of stuff with us, and we turned up in Auckland in January, and it was great. We got put in an Airbnb house with a pool and a spa and another team, and we had a great time while we were there. Yeah, it was fantastic. The experience of filming Lego Masters, though, it's probably not what you'd expect. It was certainly harder than what I expected. So I'll talk about episode 1 and 2, because those are the two that have screened here in New Zealand.
Okay.
For a fact that I made it to episode 3, because that's our first elimination. So, I'm definitely there for 3 episodes. Okay. I'll tell you that much.
Awesome.
But I can't tell you what happened on episode 3. So yeah, just the first 3 episodes, let's just say filming wise, there's no weekends in TV. You film, you do your interview day, you do your hero shots, and you might get a day off while they reset, and then you start filming again. And it was very much like that. It was the day we turned up, the day after we got picked up, and we get taken out to do all the publicity shoots. And you spend a whole day literally just doing interviews, walking around, standing around, holding Lego, trying to pose. This is a bunch of people who are not models. This is not model material, right? So you got this dude with a camera, and he's like, "Oh, just do this, or just turn and look." And I'm like, "Turn and look at what, man?" Like, what? Come on, man! I'm a 46-year-old, like 150-kilo dude trying to hold Lego in my hands, and it's all falling through my fingers. And then they come up to you and they place this one little piece, and you're just like, "Oh, come on, just take the photo already."
Oh, man.
So like that sort of stuff. It was a real laugh. Like, don't get me wrong, we laughed and we had a great time. And I think I find taking stuff like that seriously difficult. So
yeah,
thankfully Jono's the same, and we sort of just laughed and joked our way through it, and did what we had to do. And then the filming of the episodes themselves were really long days. You get picked up, taken to the studio early in the morning. That bit where you walk through the door, you do that a dozen times because they change the cameras and the angles, and then they have the crane shot and all the rest of it.
right.
The intro where they're talking, that's done a couple of times. And then, the walk around the corner. Everything that's kind of staged is done a couple of or more times. The build time is real. So even the go part, sometimes they say go like 3 or 4 times to get different shots of people running to their table. But then you go back and you set back at number 1 position, and then you go again. And then eventually they say, right, this is the real go. This time you start building. For real. And you do. And you go and you start building. And the one thing that I like to tell people, and this is something that I think all Lego masters tell people, the clock is not on the wall the whole time. You've got no idea how much time has elapsed until they tell you how much time has elapsed. And the only other way you can kind of get a feel for how much time has elapsed is by going and break lots. So if you start at lunchtime and then go to the mid-afternoon break sort of thing, that could be a 3-hour slot.
Oh, I see.
And then you go from there to the mid-afternoon break to the evening where you stop for the night. That might be a 3 or 4 hour block, and you've sort of got to add it up. But while you're building, you have no concept of time. So I think that's done intentionally, because that makes you keep moving with an element of urgency. You move with an element of urgency. You keep working, because they come back and they're like 3 hours to go, and you're like, oh crap, where'd the other 12 go? So So it's really intense. It's really intense just for that. And then you have all the added pressure of coming up with an idea on the spot with cameras in your face.
Right.
Trying to work through those things. The first episode, you've got to get familiar with the brick pit. So you've got this time ticking, and you're looking around this brick pit that's got 3,000 elements in there, and not all of them are even in there, and you're trying to figure out what you can do. You got this idea in your head, and it was really difficult because Lego make 13,000 different elements a year on average. Yeah. And we had 3,000 elements in the brick pit. So we had these ideas of things that we thought would be available. And we'd go in there and we're going to use these techniques. And you get there and you're like, oh, crap, that part's not there.
Scratch
or
that.
You'd have, you would. And like hinge plates, for example, didn't have much in the way. I think there was nothing in the way of hinge plates. They had things like ball and socket and stuff like that, but they didn't have those ratchet joints. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. And it was just, there's all these things that weren't there, and you're like, oh, crap, okay, back to the drawing board. So EP1 build was really difficult because we had all these great ideas, and it was like, okay, we'll rethink that and do that. And then Jono obviously had this fantastic idea to do a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Dumb idea. I said to him right at the very beginning, roller coasters are notoriously difficult, and very few people, I think one person in one Lego Masters episode ever has got a roller coaster working properly. But he was hell-bent, so I was like, okay, cool. So we went with it. We had nothing to lose, but so that was fun. And then just the daily grind of get up, go to the studio, film, come home, eat, sleep, get up, go back to the studio, film, come home, eat, talk about what we need to do the next day, come up with a better plan, change things, sleep, go back. And I found the sleeping part very, very, very difficult. Yeah. Very difficult. And one thing I realized while I was away was that my dog, Smudge, my little black spaniel, had by default become my skilled companion, my support dog. And being away from Smudge, so for the last 3 years since breaking down with PTSD, we've not spent more than 48 hours apart.
Oh, man.
And the only time that we spend that 48 hours apart is when my wife takes her away to an agility competition. And when we came back, when they come back, I wouldn't have slept for those 2 nights. So my wife, my home, and my dog were my 3 comfort things. And I genuinely thought that having Lego and just the Lego, because I love Lego, I'm so passionate about Lego, and I'm so energized by Lego, I thought it would be enough. I'm going to be on Lego Masters. I'm not going to have an issue with those things. And it became an issue. So I can't really say much more, but the story evolves. And next week we can have a better conversation. But it was very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And there was times when I wanted to quit and come home in those first couple of 3 episodes.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to leave. So there's a difference between wanting to quit and be at home compared to actually wanting to leave and come home. So I really wanted to be there, don't get me wrong, but it was so hard for me, hard for me. But, I'm thankful to the production company, the crew, the other cast members, and my family, particularly my wife, were exceedingly supportive and managed to get me through those first 3 episodes. So, yeah, it was a fun ride. I would recommend to anybody, if you want to have a crack at Lego Masters, you don't have to be the best builder. When you are in the brick pit with all of those bricks there, we had 2.5 million, and you've got an idea or you've got a brief to work to and you've got a concept, things just tend to flow at a point in time. Like, it's real hard, but it's worth giving it a go. 100%. And I just need to acknowledge Slugbiker's question there, Dan. Did they make you wear makeup? Well, it's funny you should ask. I've got a good story about makeup. This face. So true story. The makeup thing was actually quite funny. I'm 46 years old and I have a reasonably good complexion, according to the makeup lady. She said I actually have almost a perfect complexion, and I wore very little makeup, and everyone hated me for it.
That's
true story.
Great. That's great.
True story. Oh, I thought it was great too, because my makeup, if at all, so there was days where I had no makeup on at all, and then it would get a bit hot and I'd get a bit sort of sweaty, and I'd come in and I'd pat, like get 5 little pats with this little pad thing, and that'd be it.
Yeah.
Everyone else sitting in the makeup chair, like 20 minutes each and stuff, and they're doing the whole thing, all the lads as well. And I'm getting this little 2-second pat down, and boy, did I get some grief for it. Like, all the other lads were like, so wouldn't it be nice to have such perfect skin?
That must be nice.
That was her words. That was her words. Oh, you've got perfect skin. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take it. If it means I don't have to do the makeup, I'll take it. I'm cool with this.
That's incredible.
I thought it was funny. I used to have little chuckles to myself when I was sitting there watching everyone else getting their makeup done, and I'm just like,
makeup's sitting there getting makeup done for TV is, that's, you have to sit there for a while, depending on what's going on, and so it's never fun. So I'm glad
they
that
weren't overly heavy. They weren't overly heavy on the makeup, because I think they wanted people to look naturalish.
Yeah.
So, it's good. Probably like 15 minutes per person sort of thing was sort of the longest. They weren't doing it hard. I think the most I got makeup done was in the promotional shots on day 1. They spent about 10 minutes or whatever. And that's where they went hard on that first day for the photos. But the rest of it was pretty funny.
That's a great story. Yeah, Goddess has a question here that says, do you feel that you and Jono bonded throughout this show more than you thought you would, or did you know how much your relationship would build?
There was definitely ups and downs to the episodes that we were involved with. We did bond on a certain level, and then there's other levels where we really clashed. And I think that is a direct result of our mental health journeys, where both of us can be quite guarded and protected in the way that we interact with other people. And Jono is quite guarded in the way that he reacts with people particularly. And on set, in those first few episodes, it became apparent that both of us are quite strong personalities, and I'm very much a what you see is what you get. And if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. So Jono would be like, "Oh, hey man, what do you think of this?" And I'd be like, "Mate, that's shit. You could do better than that."
Yeah.
and Jono would be like, "Oh, just crash off the wall." And I'm like, well, you ask, and the fact of the matter is I know that you're a really talented builder, and I know you can do better than that. So we ended up having this conversation about, I had this conversation with Jono about things like, do you want to do just enough or do you want to be good enough? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, at the moment, you're building just enough to do what we're doing. So you say, okay, I'm going to build a house. So he builds a house with, a 1x2 and two little slopes on top, and it's this big, it's just enough. But is it good enough to be Lego Masters? No, we want to build a house that's this big, that's made out of thousands of pieces and has, all the details and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah. And what it was like, Jono's not a bad builder. He is a very, very talented builder. He's a better builder than I am in that artistic sort of thing. I'm very much a form function builder. But our roles, we ended up becoming reversed, where he became the form function and I became the beautification expert. And so I had to find my not so rough way of telling him that, we could do better. And he did the same for me. Because what he did for me was I'd be like, oh, hey, Jono, what do you think of this? And I'd show him something and he'd be going, oh, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Yeah. And I'd be like, no, it's not. That's rubbish. and then, so it was, we were definitely opposites on that front.
Yeah.
So we found this nice middle ground where we were able to encourage each other.
Yeah.
Without being so harsh and without crushing the creative process. And then there was times where none of that worked at all. And we just clashed and did our own thing, and then we'd have to find a way to come back and fix it. And it was tough. You get, we're friends. We've known each other for 5 odd years, but we've never really spent time doing we've never spent time doing this together. We've never built anything together as far as like a mock's concerned, or collaboration or anything. Yeah. Jono has been on my stream once or twice, actually here in the studio when he's come to visit, and we've built sets, and we will sit and talk on the phone for hours because both of us love talking. Jono more so than me, believe it or not. But yeah, there was certainly things that we had to learn about each other. So all in all, there was a point where we really weren't getting on, but we turned it around and we got it together, and we have become stronger for it in the long run post-show. We've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks, especially since it's been on air. We've both sort of grew a lot out of it. We've continued to talk about our mental health. And we actually got the opportunity to talk about that on show as well. And that will develop over the next episode. And I definitely think that whilst there was some elements of questionable friendship, we've definitely bounced back from that and become way, way better off for it, for sure. We definitely didn't let it come between us. I know that there's been other shows in other countries where friendships have actually been crushed by the show, and post-show those people won't even talk to each other. They won't even interview together. But no, we've used it to our advantage to learn more about each other and understand each other a bit more, which is really good. And we're both willing to do that, which that goes a long way towards self-growth, in my opinion.
I'm really glad to hear that you two, are still friends after the whole experience. Man, I could spend a whole episode or two just asking about Lego Masters. Memphis Bricks in the chat says, since the show aired, have you been out in public and recognized by people?
Well, funny you should ask that. So it aired this week on Monday and Tuesday night. The first time I really went out in public was today, actually. Just this morning, we went to our local our local market. So there's just a market that we go to every week, every Sunday morning, and we buy our fruit and our veggie and our eggs and our bread and stuff there. And walking around there this morning, yes, for the first time, this gentleman was looking at me, and we sort of, and I noticed that he was watching, and as I was walking, his head was moving as well. I'm like, and I caught his eye, and he sort of had this little thing, and he goes, "Are you on Lego Masters?" And I was like, "Why, yes, I am." Okay, I wasn't quite that cheesy, but I was like, "Yeah, I am, man. Yeah, thanks." He goes, "Oh, that's awesome, man." Gives me a fist bump. "Oh, I really liked your builds, man. Our kids are loving watching it. Yeah, it's really good, man." Oh. So we sat and had this, didn't sit, but we stood and had a chat for a couple of minutes, and then we moved on, and it was
wow.
It was a very surreal moment.
Yeah.
For being recognized for Lego Masters, it's only been on TV twice. It's 2 hours, and out of that 2 hours, you're lucky if you get like 3 minutes of screen time. But then it's kind of weird because I have been pulled out in public for YouTube videos when I'm the smallest YouTube channel ever. And I think what used to get me the most, and it hasn't happened for a long time because I haven't been a paramedic for probably 10 years now. But when I was working as a paramedic, I'd get people coming up to me in public all the time, thanking me and going, "Oh, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah." And I don't recognize who you are. Where do I know you from? "Oh, I had a heart attack," or blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Oh, you look different with clothes on." Yeah, so that sort of stuff. I haven't had someone do that for a long, long time, but I used to. So it's kind of weird. It was kind of weird. And my wife sort of just looked at me and laughed and grinned and said, "Yeah," because I had a conversation with her about 2 weeks ago. It's like, is it going to be weird if I'm walking down the street and people are like, "Hey, I know you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, you don't. I've seen you on TV." Because people feel like they do. They feel like they know you because they've seen you on TV.
Right.
And it's an odd feeling. And I'm just me. I'm not special. I volunteered to go on a show and I got picked, and it's like, I'll stop. I'll take the photos. I'll sign the books. I'll sign the Lego sets. I don't care, but I don't think I'm anything special. And to be fair, if I do autograph your Lego set, it's probably just devalued in price. So it's better off not signing it. Just saying.
No need to be that humble, Dan. But I'm glad. I'm glad you're staying grounded. But I think a lot of us would agree you are special. But I'm very glad that you got to have that experience. With your time spent on Lego Masters, now that you're back and you've returned to Twitch and streaming, now that there's been a little time to process that, how has that experience changed what you do while you stream or build Lego while creating content, or has it changed anything at all?
The main thing that it's changed, the main thing that it's changed is that I am very, very crap at keeping secrets. So I have to be very, very careful about what I talk about. I'm just not. I am inherently an honest person. So keeping secrets for me is difficult. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting it over and done with, so I don't have to think about what are we up to, It hasn't really changed anything as far as Twitch streaming goes. If anything, it's probably made me want to try and do better, be more, try and be more upbeat, try not to show as much, when I'm having a bad day or whatever. But then what happens is I then start not being true to myself, because it's
Right.
like you have this expectation, oh, you're a Lego master now, you must be, a fantastic builder that's really talented and you can do anything you want to do. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true. I'm not a very talented builder at all. There's more people out there that are way more talented than I am. It's different when you have the opportunity to play with 2.5 million bricks, and when you have your building buddy with you as well, when you have your Jono. And I couldn't have done what I did on Lego Masters without Jono. Jono couldn't have done it without me. So for me to do that sort of stuff on my own, it's not the case. So yeah, I think you just got to maintain that fact that you've just got to be you. And I am just me who was on Lego Masters. And sometimes I'm going to have some bad days, and I'm not going to, be all jovial and funny and upbeat when it comes to live streams. And some days I will be. And I think if anything else, it gives me more topic to talk about. It gives me more experience to talk about. So as far as the live streams since coming back from Lego Masters have been, especially once it was announced, people then start asking the questions. So then you can start talking about the experience, and then I can relate that to the rest of the Lego community and the other things that I've had involvements with, and how that's, I guess, how that has all evolved to the point to where I'm at now, because that whole journey is really just been, for me, exceptionally fortunate. And I am so grateful for the journey that I have had through Lego and the opportunities that I've had through Lego. And that started way back when I started the Lug. The opportunities that were given to me through starting the Lug, running the Lug, doing Lego shows, running Lego shows, giving money to charity, bringing people in, creating community, spreading that around New Zealand, being involved around New Zealand, and then coming onto Twitch, doing the same thing, growing, spreading, helping, just taking that journey from start to finish, becoming an RLFM, getting onto Lego Masters. I cannot really express how grateful I am for the opportunities that I've had that have been given to me from these guys, these little plastic bricks. And the company and the community. So, yeah. I get all gushy in a minute if we carry on like this.
So what's next for Between the Bricks then?
Well, that's a great question. So I've been working on a business. So I haven't worked full time for the last 3 years since being diagnosed with PTSD. I was self-employed. I used to do drug detection, used to do drug testing, used to drug test athletes, and I did environmental testing as well. And I was on a good wicket. I was earning 6 figures, self-employed, living the dream, working hard, but a lot from away from home. And I stopped the whole lot, pulled the plug. And I've learned through that time over the last 3 years that money's not everything. And this is, again, this is just for me, but money's not everything. My wife has a solid career. I've been getting some financial support from Veterans Affairs, and I needed to really take a look at what am I going to do with the rest of my life, because going back to emergency services, going back to allied healthcare, wraparound services just wasn't for me anymore. I figured that if I went back to any of that sort of stuff, I would pretty much just end up in the same position. So, I've been really battling with what I want to do. I never really wanted to be a full-time content creator, don't get me wrong. The whole streaming and making YouTube and stuff, even getting some small amounts of revenue from it, never really drove me to want to do it full-time to try and make a career out of it, because it's too bloody hard. It is hard work. And I don't have that personality. I don't have that. I'm not a Twitch personality. I'm not a streamer personality. I'm not a Brooks O'Brien. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be. I just want to be me, and I want to do what I'm doing. So I needed something else. So last year, with the help of an occupational therapist, we sort of came up with this idea. She's like, oh, what do you think you could do with Lego? And I said, well, I had been toying with this idea of, I'd love to do Lego therapy for veterans.
Mm.
And then so we talked about that. And then that evolved into, just other forms of being able to sit around and build with Lego. And whilst building with Lego, having conversations around, peer-to-peer support, life skills, social skills, whatever. And then I looked a little bit further into that, and I saw that there was this program called the Lego Serious Play, which is designed for the corporate sector. And it's about helping corporations ask questions and answer questions through Lego building. So I looked into that and I thought, yeah, I could do that. That's pretty good. I've worked in corporate before. I'm pretty sure I could facilitate, sessions using building to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
So with the help of Veterans Affairs, I did the Lego Serious Play course, and then got myself sort of all set up to do that as a business. And I thought, I wonder if I could use corporates to subsidize going into schools and working with kids. So I then looked at how I could work with kids, came across this methodology called Lego-based therapy. So I went and did a workshop in Lego-based therapy, and that's designed specifically for autistic people. And so then I started working around how I could do this as an individual or as a standalone service, as opposed to traditionally Lego-based therapy is sort of wrapped in with other services like occupational therapists and teachers and schools or those sorts of avenues where it's done in addition to whatever else the rest of it that they do is. I didn't want to do all the other stuff. I just wanted to play with the Lego.
Right.
So I thought, what about if I set up a clinic just doing Lego-based therapy and therapeutic use of Lego sessions, which is exactly that. Right. So that's what I set out to do. And I talked to my OT about it. She's like, oh, that's wonderful. Of course, OTs being OTs, everything's a good idea. And then I thought about it and I thought, actually, you know what? There's probably no real reason why I couldn't do this. And then I talked to my wife about it. My wife was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. I really think you can make that work. And the reason that's important is because I have tried many business ventures over the years, and my wife has never said to me once, oh, that's really good. I think you can make that work. It's usually, bro, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. You're not using any of my money for that. So this time I'm like, maybe this could work because it's got the Erin seal of approval. So, I looked into it a little bit more. And, what do you need for it? You need some knowledge. You probably need some confidence. You need a space and you need some Lego. Well, I got the Lego. Trust me, I got tons of the stuff. And to be fair, look, I'm not trying to be arrogant. I've got lots and lots and lots of Lego. And I've got a lot of it from the Lego group. And to be fair, I'm one of those people that's like, I got a lot of this stuff for free as an RLFM to review and do all of that other work on. But what does it do afterwards? I've given tons of it away in the past. I've done all sorts of stuff with it. But it's like, well, actually, I could hold on to this and use it for this business idea and share it with these kids or adults or whoever and want to build it and just have a broad library of stuff that is more than what I would just buy myself, right?
Yeah.
So I've got the collection, I've got the Lego. Confidence, not so much. The space I didn't have, so I reached out and I ended up getting given some space. So then it became a step closer to becoming a reality. And then I started speaking to people in the autism community and stuff, and they were like, this is a brilliant idea. The first thing I tell everybody, I'm not a therapist. And their whole thing is that's great because we don't want therapy, but what you're doing and what you're offering and your life experience and your life skills is the sort of things that these kids need. They need somebody to talk to them in a real manner about real life skills, about social skills and all these other things where it's not coming from the enforcers in their life, like their teachers and their parents, and you get to do it in a fun manner while building Lego sets or free building from a pile of bricks. And so I'm in a real position of privilege here. So I got this all set up, ready to rock, sort of late last year, and then Lego Masters came up, and it's like, God damn it, I'm just ready to go with this.
Yeah.
And then you get offered Lego Masters, which is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I figured that, you know what, I'm obviously going to go to Lego Masters, so I put business on hold. And what better platform to launch yourself off than Lego Masters? So
Yeah.
I came home from Lego Masters. As soon as I got back, I got into the space. I cleaned it out. I got it set up. And it's only a little room. It's about the size of my Lego room. But I've got Lego stored down there. I've got stuff displayed there, and I've got some banners on the wall. I've got a big oval table, and I've made the space as nice and welcoming as I possibly can with Lego in mind, and not trying to be not overstimulating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also have just for anyone who's wondering, like, oh, okay, this grown man going to be in a room with kids on his own? Yes, I am. But I have 2 high definition cameras with audio that records all the sessions all the time. And that's to keep everybody safe. So you have to acknowledge that as well. I think it's really important to make sure that everybody feels safe in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put some posts on Facebook, and I put some posts in a local community group when I got back from Lego Masters that I was ready to go. And the next hurdle really was to prove to myself that people would actually want to use the service, because the back of my mind, the way that I work, I am one of those self-sabotagers. That's part of my mode is I always do something until I know that I can do it. And then when I know I can do it and I'm going to succeed, I will self-sabotage quickly, because that was what was bred into me when I was growing up, that I was never good enough. So my biggest hurdle is myself. And I had to push through that. And I had to push through all of the doubt. And I had to push through the self-doubt. And I had to push through the lack of self-confidence. And the one thing that I really sell myself on is I call myself, again, not trying to be arrogant, but I refer to myself as a Lego expert when I'm talking to families and adults and parents and stuff, because when you're dealing with autistic people, there's a fixation on accuracy.
Yeah.
And if you don't get things accurate when it comes to Lego pieces with some people with autism, some people who are autistic, you lose their trust. Yeah. They're not going to buy into it. If you call it a round thingy-me hoo-diggy thingy over there, they're just going to be like, what the heck? That's a round plate with a 4x4 plate with a Technicolor in the middle. And if you're not on their level and not getting the lingo, man, you're not going to succeed. So having that expertise in Lego really is how I'm selling this. It's like, we are going to get down on that level and talk about stuff at the nitty-gritty, and I'm going to understand what you're saying. And it's worked. I've got several kids signed up. I've only been going for a few weeks, or so, a month or two. No, 6 weeks, not even. Yeah, 6 weeks. And I've got a few kids signed up. I've got 2 groups starting next week, 2 more groups starting next week, and group sessions. I've got a school that I'm working at with a autistic child at the school twice a week, where I go into the school and I take Lego sets with me. We sit, we build, we talk about issues that he's had at school. This week he got suspended because he punched a kid in the face. So I went to his house and sat there with him and his dad one session and him and his mum at the other session. We sat there and talked about why he punched this kid in the face. And we just have these conversations, and I can get away with this stuff because we're building Lego.
Yeah.
And I do it in a way, I never push my own agenda. I always work with their parents, work with the teachers. What sort of things do you guys want to get out of this? And it's not about my personal morality. It's not about my personal beliefs or anything like that. It's about making sure that we've got the best outcomes for the kids or the people that I'm working with through shared experience. And that's it. It's that simple. And I sometimes I can't believe that anybody else isn't doing it already.
Yeah.
But so it's going really good. So for the future, what's next? I want that to become my main focus.
Yeah.
I still want to stream, and I don't book any work on Fridays. So, I'm too cool to work Fridays. No, I'm not really. I just don't like working Fridays. And Fridays, realistically, is either going to be stream day or travel to a Lego show day.
Yeah.
So, and I try not to book too much on Wednesdays because I do Rad Train, and I can work around it. And that's where my balance is. It's really working towards making Brick Engaged my part to 3/4 to maybe full-time income, moving away from the support that I'm getting from Veterans Affairs and becoming standalone again, feeling like I'm, contributing to society, and then carrying on with my Lego hobby and addiction and love. And the best part out of it or about it is what I get back from these kids is immeasurable. I know that I'm doing stuff for them and helping them, but what they give me in return is it's unquantifiable, because the pride you see when these kids complete something that they would have never otherwise gotten the opportunity to do, or build a set that they would be far out of their family's reach financially or anything like that, things that we take for granted. It's just it's phenomenal. And I walk away from some of those sessions and I just have this sense of happiness and contentness inside that I haven't had for a long, long time. And I genuinely feel like that I'm actually contributing again to society, which is a big thing after 3 years of not essentially contributing to society.
I think that's incredible, Dan. I wish you the most success with Brick Engaged. If there's anyone who's listening or watching that wants to get more information on it, where could we send them?
Just website, brickengage.com.
Great.
There is a Facebook page and an Instagram for Brick Engaged as well, but very, very small. But if you'd like to follow, I'm always here for a bit of self-promo.
Yeah. Of course. No, I'm glad to spread the word of your business. And I mean, you're truly doing some great stuff. And what's really clear is, the passion for helping people, the passion for Lego and putting it to good use for a force of something positive. So I'm so glad that that you're putting this together, and this is something that you're doing. And so I can't wait to catch up with you more in the future to see how it goes and check in on it. So brickengaged.com for those that are listening.
Yeah, I do feel a sense of needing to give back, given that everything that Lego has given me over the years, to be able to utilize that and give back some and make that available for people to enjoy instead of it sitting on my shelf is a really big motivator for me.
Well, I'm glad that you're helping, and I'm glad that you're doing some amazing stuff. So,
thanks, man.
Best of luck with that, and I can't wait to hear more as time goes on. Yeah, I think that's incredible. So
I got to give a huge shout out to the community as well. This is something that, like I said before, I'm rubbish at keeping secrets. So I have talked about Brick Engaged a bit over on my stream over the last few months and things. And, people have been asking, how's it going? And, and it's just like the positivity and the support that have come back and the comments. Like, if you ever think that I don't read the comments in chat, or, sometimes I miss them, but I really do. And I take them on board. And the amount of, love and support that have come back from the community and the viewers and everybody has just been amazing and motivating to want to make it work. So don't underestimate the power of you people out there. You guys are amazing too.
The community is incredible and
sure is
in so many ways supportive, and a lot of us can't do what we do without all of you out there. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Dan, we've been talking for a couple hours now, and now that you've been through this thing that we call crossing the streams, who would you like to go through this as well?
I prepared for this question. It's the only question that I was prepared for. The two people at the top of my hit list that I would love to see on Crossing the Streams would be Mr. Rick Sapience Heaton. I think Sapience, he's not only is he a great friend, but he's a good streamer, and he'd have some stories. You know, he's worked in games and sort of like the online space for a long, long time. And what's quite funny about Sapience is that I used to play a game called Lord of the Rings Online, and he was a community manager for Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah.
And way back in the day, well, this is years ago, like 10 years ago, well before I even considered streaming, when I was playing Lord of the Rings Online, he was one of the community managers there, and you'd see him around. And there was this thing called Take the Hobbits to Isengard, and he was one of the hobbits. And me and my son, I took the day off work, and he took the day off school so we could participate in this event of taking the hobbits to Isengard. And it was literally just a whole bunch of people from the game running with these two hobbits from the Shire on the map all the way to Isengard on the map, and trying not to get killed along the way.
That's so great.
And Sapience was one of those hobbits. And when I sort of linked up with him on Twitch through whatever it was, games or whatever we were playing, I remember sending a chat message saying, we used to play Lord of the Rings Online with this character called Sapience, and he's like, yeah, that was me. I'm like, oh, fanboy moment. We did this thing called Take the Hobbits to Isengard, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. So we talked about that for a little while, and I've even got a screenshot somewhere of it, to be honest. And it's like 10 years ago. So, yeah, I think Rick would be amazing and would have some really, really cool stories.
Yeah.
And then the second person that I would like to really love to see on here would be one of the genuine OGs, and that would have to be Brick and Nick. And I'm positive that Brick and Nick's been suggested before, but if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty of how things started on Twitch, then I think Nick's the man to talk to. And I'm pretty sure, little birdie tells me, and you might have seen it on the Grandmasters US Season 3 trailer, that he's going to have some cool stuff to talk about in the very near future too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I can't wait. I need to talk to both of them about getting on the show sometime, but I love both suggestions.
Oh, well, if it's the cool factor is just going to be that blunt in the chat, then yes, that's right. Our boy Brick and Nick is on Lego Masters Season 3. So yeah, can't wait. And I can't wait to hear his stories as well. Not going to lie, there was a little bit of communication backwards and forwards through our processes. So, we've both known for a long time. But I can't wait to see how he goes on the show, because that boy is talented, genuine talent. And he's used to working under pressure. I think he's got the goods, man. He's got the goods, and I feel like he could go all the way. And I can't wait to see that show. I really can't.
Yeah, I cannot wait as well. I'm really looking forward to that. And so thank you for those suggestions. We will see if we can get him on the show. I can't wait to talk to them if so. So where can people find you?
Nick likes to talk, so I'm sure he'd love to come on.
Yes.
Love you, buddy. Love you, Nick. I love you, buddy. Where can people find me? Twitch.tv/Between the Bricks. That's where I stream. The next best social media for me probably is Instagram. So Between the Bricks _RLFM on Instagram. Facebook Between the Bricks as well. Twitter, I do have a Twitter, but I don't twit very often. No, hang on. I'm a twit all the time. I don't tweet very often. But I do check it every now and then. But those are probably my main socials. You can hit me up anywhere. If you've got an email, you can email me. If you want to DM me on Discord, then feel free to slide on into those DMs or even into the BTB server. It's all good. I'm around. And I'm genuinely here to chat as well with anyone on anything. If you want information, advice. I'll give it all for free. What you do with it after that, that's up to you.
That's so great, Dan. So for those of you listening or watching, please check Dan out. Also, his business brickengaged.com if you're looking for more information on what Dan's doing out there with his wonderful work. Thank you, Dan, for just an incredible time getting to get to know you and listening to your stories and spending some time to hear about you and the content that you make and the things that you're doing with Lego. It has been just an incredible talk. Thank you so much.
Mate, thank you so much for having me. We wouldn't get the opportunity to sit here and talk about myself like this if you didn't run this show, and this show, in all honesty, has been one of my favorite, weekly must watches of late. And, just what you're doing with it and the way that you're presenting it to the community and your questioning it's all on a level of professionalism that is absolutely outstanding. So, thank you for taking the time to do what you do and make this possible for us and to share with the community. So it's not all me, buddy. This is you too.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Any parting words for those that are watching and listening?
Just keep doing you. It's, be the best you can be. It's okay to not be okay. I know that sounds very cliche. That's it's like a catchphrase here for mental health. I don't know if it's a catchphrase worldwide or whether it is a simply New Zealand thing, but it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be okay. All of these things, we're all here on this journey together. We get one shot at it, make the most of it.